Wally's dad sacrificed himself to stop Eobard Thawne. Now, Wally has returned to Central City to try and find a place where he belongs. But that can only last so long when another villain is just around the corner. Red lightning pulses around them. Wally stares at his father, who is trying to tell him something, but no words come out. Colonel West reaches out a hand for Wally, his eyes wide with fear. "I can't hear you! Hold on, Dad! I'm coming!" Wally yells. He tries to move forward, but the world suddenly shatters around them. Wally sits up with a gasp and looks around the dark room. He is laying in a bed in the Dibney Youth Mission in Central City. Slowly, he gets out of bed and heads for the roof. He stares out over the city as he pulls out his phone and listens to a voicemail from his father, just wanting to hear his voice. "Hey, Wally, can't sleep?" Ralph Dibney asks as he joins him. "Oh, hey, Mr. Dibney. No, just got a lot on my mind," Wally says in surprise. Ralph joins him at the edge of the roof and looks out on the city for a moment. Finally, he turns to Wally with a sigh. "You seemed pretty shaken up when you showed up the other night. I wanted to give you some space, but we do need to talk," Ralph says, finally bringing up what happened last time Wally was in the city. "The cops were asking a lot of questions after what happened here. Questions I didn't even know how to start answering. Then, these dark suits show up, and suddenly, no more questions. It was as if the whole thing never happened," Ralph explains. He looks at Wally. "But it did happen. I need to know. What was all that, Wally?" he demands. Wally turns away from him, feigning ignorance. "I don't know what you mean, Mr. Dibney. I left before all that stuff happened," Wally points out. Ralph raises an eyebrow in skepticism at the words. "I saw you, Wally. I saw what you can do. Is this somehow connected to that stuff in Gateway City? That woman with the sword?" Ralph asks him, explaining that he doesn't have to go through any of this alone. A look of defiance crosses Wally's face. "I'm grateful you're letting me stay here, Mr. Dibney, but I already have a father. I'm not looking for another one. If that's gonna be a problem, I can leave in the morning," Wally snaps. Ralph puts up his hands to ward off Wally's anger. "When you showed up the other night, you seemed so lost. Let us help, please," he says. Wally thinks on this for a moment, before turning and walking back towards the door. "I should really get some sleep," he says softly. But Ralph calls for him to stop. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a card. "Those suits who showed up after that thing attacked, they gave me this and told me to call them if you ever showed up here again," Ralph says as he shows Wally the card. "Agent Hunter Zolomon, DEO, is printed on the front." "Are you going to call them?" Wally asks. Ralph smiles and tears up the card. "You have a home here, Wally, for as long as you need one," he says. Later, Wally is eating breakfast in the cafeteria when he is approached by Linda. The girl sits down next to him and flashes a smile. "So, we gonna talk about your powers or what?" she asks. Wally stares at her for a moment. "What are you talking about?" he finally asks. "Oh, please. Playing dumb might work with Ralph. He likes to do the whole holding space for your feelings crap, but not me. I saw you, Wally," Linda says. She holds up her phone and shows a very clear picture of Wally in his speedster suit, fighting against the monster that Mick Rory had become. She slips the phone back into her pocket. "There are videos of the whole thing online already. No one got a good shot of your face, except me, but it's out there. Trust me," she says. "What is it with you, Linda? Can't you just leave me alone?" he asks. Linda reaches for a piece of his toast. "Get over yourself. I mostly want to know what the deal is with the monkey," she says before standing. "So, are we gonna go somewhere where we can actually talk or what?" she asks with a smile. Soon, the pair find themselves in an old junkyard. Wally reaches into his backpack and pulls out the speedster suit. Linda stares at it for a moment. I like the goggles, but, she says. Wally looks at his suit, slightly offended. What? I think it's cool, he mumbles as he shoves it back into his backpack in embarrassment. No, wait! I'm sorry. I was just busting your lightning bolts. It is pretty cool, Linda tells him. She smiles again. So, exactly how fast can you go? She asks. Soon, she is clinging to Wally's back as the two streak across the landscape in a burst of red lightning. She screams for Wally to stop, warning him that she's gonna barf. Finally, Wally screeches to a halt and Linda slides to the ground. I gotta catch my breath, she gasps. Wally rubs his head and looks at her. I was the one who was running, he points out. Linda finally stands. That was f***ing crazy, dude, she tells him. That was amazing. And you can just do that all the time? Like, whenever you want? She asks. Wally nods, but explains that he always gets really hungry after running. Linda nods and turns to look at where they are. I could eat. Come on, let's hit a drive-thru or something, she says. Later, they sit on the roof of an abandoned drive-in theater, eating lunch as Wally explains everything that happened at Fort Fox to Linda. So, the woman who did all that stuff to you, she got away? And what happened to the monkey? Linda finally asks. Wally shrugs and explains that they lost both of them during the battle, and the rogues couldn't find either one afterwards. And your dad? Linda asks. Wally nods and sips his soda. I don't know how to find him yet, but I will. I have to, he says with determination. He explains that he was mad at his dad for a long time for not being around when his mother died. She was bipolar, but when she went off her meds, things got bad. She was going through a really bad stretch in the last few months, and my dad was always traveling for work and was gone a lot. I should have made sure she was taking her meds, Wally says as he thinks back on his time with his mother. Maybe if he had been home, he could have stopped her from... I hated him for a while. I really hated him. But I later realized that it wouldn't have mattered if he was there or not, he says. He goes quiet and Linda finally speaks. But you said you can find him? In that still point place? She asks. Wally nods, but explains that he doesn't even know how to build the machine. Only Thawne and Barry did. Linda reaches for the last of the fries and explains that she has a plan. Later that night, the pair stand outside the gates to Project Olympus at Fort Fox, with Linda explaining that now that time has passed and everything is calm, they might be able to find a clue to where Eleanor or Grodd went. Okay, you better stand back, Wally tells her as he steps up to the gate. Energy crackles in his hand and he tosses a lightning bolt that shatters the metal. You didn't tell me you could do that! What else can you do? Linda asks as they walk inside. I don't know, I'm still figuring it out, Wally says with a shrug. They move through the shadowy corridors of the now abandoned base, unsure of what they're looking for. But suddenly, Wally stops. He can hear a voice whispering to him from the darkness. Did you hear that? He asks softly. He turns and walks down the corridor, Linda quickly following after him. Okay, maybe this was a bad idea, she whispers. Wally reaches out and opens the door, revealing a bathroom. The mirrors shattered and glass scattered along the floor. I swear it came from in here, Wally says. Linda looks at the shattered mirrors. Why are all the mirrors broken? She asks. They step into the room and Wally shakes his head. Not all of them, he points out as he slowly walks to the only whole mirror before them. But something is wrong. Their image is warped within the mirror, as if there are dozens of them. Why is it doing that? Linda asks. Wally shakes his head and slowly reaches for it. But Linda is suddenly screaming for help. Wally whirls back to see she is gone. But there is movement on the floor, and Wally looks down to find Linda trapped within the shards of shattered glass. "Wally, help!" Linda yells. Wally moves to help her, but Linda shouts a warning. "No, Wally! I'm not alone in here!" she yells. But it's too late, and someone else's hand reaches out and grabs him, pulling him inside the shattered mirror. Wally is suddenly falling and slams into the ground. Linda reaches out and helps him to his feet. "Wally, what is this place?" she gasps. Wally shakes his head. "I don't know. I've never seen anything like it," he says. The two look around at the mirror slides along the black void, when a hooded figure suddenly steps from the shadows. Others join him. Strange mirror images of the hooded man. "Let us out!" they order. The mirrors begin to close in on them, and the hooded man reaches out. But Linda jumps on Wally's back. "Wally, run!" she shouts. Energy crackles around them as Wally rushes off into the void. Behind them, the hooded man gives chase. And that was the complete story for Absolute Flash, issue 13 by Jeff Lemire. Mirror Master, part 1 of 2. The first encounter of Wally and Mirror Master. What did you think of this? Let me know in the comments down below. And like and subscribe to help out the channel. I'm Dan with Comicstorian, and we will see you next time. Rest in peace, Benny.